for this time today because I wanted to share with you about your dad, your brother, your friend. I wanted to let you know how blessed we are that he's here.
Amen.
This all started for us back in December when he began to get weak. We had a family Christmas party at my son's house in Auburn, and I asked my brother-in-law, who I knew was coming, I said, I want you to just look at him and see if there's anything that you see that I need to take care of. And so Rolland was sitting on the couch when David got there, and David sat on the couch with him and spent a lot of time with him. And he said, only thing I can see is that he's super weak and he doesn't look good. But I don't, you know, he's a pediatrician, so he's a little kid, he's a little person doctor. And so he said, just keep a watch on him. And it got to the point where we thought maybe he needed to go to an urgent care. This was early in January. And he went, and they did some blood work, gave him a steroid shot, an antibiotic shot with prescriptions to follow up. And that was, you know, that he felt better almost immediately, and then bam, it was all over again. And so we just kind of, the end of January, the last weekend of January, no, it was the next to the last week of January, the weekend leading up to the last, it doesn't matter. I was working, he was home here, and I was working 5 miles up the road at an Emmaus walk. I was in charge of serving the meal service for the weekend. And so it was not where I could, you know, I had to be there all day, but I came home at night. So I worked the first day on Thursday, and when I came home Thursday night, he made the statement, I don't think I'm gonna try and get out of bed tomorrow. I think I'm just gonna stay in bed because I'm afraid, as weak as I am, that I might fall. And I don't want anything to happen while I'm gone, while you're gone. Well, I knew right then I didn't need to be at camp anymore. So I went back to camp that early the next morning, on Friday morning. I got everybody through the breakfast meal, and I found someone who could take over for the rest of the weekend for me. I walked outside the building, I got in my car, and I called David. And I said, David, this is what he said. I'm going back home. What do I need to do? He said, you need to get him to the emergency room now. So I came home, loaded him up, took him to Auburn to the emergency room. They kept him there several hours, did all manner of blood work. Not seeing anything, and they sent him home. And made us an appointment with our primary care doctor for that following Monday. So we went in Monday morning, and they had access to all of the hospital labs, all of the blood work, all of the everything that had been done on Friday. And they said, I don't know why they sent you home. You're going back to the hospital right now. We're going to assign you, we're going to have you admitted, and we're going to assign you a hospitalist. And the guy that we had was absolutely fabulous. He was so good, very attentive, very detail-oriented, and did all manner of blood work, did all manner of tests. He had the second echocardiogram in less than a week, and he had a colonoscopy. He had a endoscopy.
Checking everything.
From one end to the other. They were checking for bleeding. They knew that he was bleeding somewhere, but they couldn't find where. And they did all of these tests, and they finally just surmised, without any just negligible results, sent him home, saying it's anemia. So they put him on massive doses of iron. That was the last weekend in January, last Thursday of January. For 2 weeks. We had an appointment in 2 weeks again with our primary care, And one of the doctors that had been consulted while we were in the hospital was an oncologist who specializes in blood disorders. And they had consulted her, the hospitalist had consulted her. A little Asian lady about this tall, fabulous lady. And so they had set us up with an appointment for her on Friday. We saw primary care on Thursday. We saw Dr. Farmer on Friday morning, and she said, I need to do this. I need you to see this doctor. I need you to do this, and I cannot get it done
Fast enough.
unless you're in the hospital. At that point, he couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. So we're back at the hospital. And she ordered, the first one that did, she ordered his blood to be cultured. And so, I mean, they took enough blood that first trip in the hospital to re-blood another person. I mean, it was constant all day long taking blood. But then nobody ever cultured it, so it was cultured. And of course it takes a couple of days or so to get those results back. That was on Friday. By Sunday, I thought the cardiologist said, I need to do an internal echocardiogram. It's where it's called a TEE, and what that stands for, all of you Google people, you can look it up. They go down the throat with a ultrasound type instrument, and they can see the back of the heart. Well, I'm sitting in his room while he's gone, and pretty quick, not too long, his doctor comes back, Dr. Rhodes, and he sat down. Who was I telling this morning? Therese. He got right in my face, and he said, oh my gosh, we found this, we found this, we found bacteria, at least two, possibly three of his valves are being eaten away by bacteria. They call it vegetation. But the vegetation is there, the vegetation is on the
Thank God it
leads.
wasn't vegan.
I guess not.
The vegetation was on the leads to his pacemaker, so it was gonna have to come out. It couldn't just replace the leads, they have to do the whole 9 yards. So he said, so we're gonna have to do this, we're gonna have to do that, we're gonna have to, and his eyes were this big. And he is a big man, big bear of a man. And y'all, you're just gonna have to excuse me, but he finally stopped, and he's talking 90 to nothing, really fast, and I'm trying to hear everything he says, and my old southern ears can't hear that fast, and I'm just trying to pay attention, you know. And he said, finally he stopped, and he said, okay, that's all I got. He said, he said, you got this deer in the headlights look, is there anything you want to ask? I said, please forgive me, ladies, everybody. I said, oh shit, excuse me. I know you had never heard that word before, but anyway. Sorry, ladies.
Huh?
That's the only word that would come to my head.
Archie, can you just leave them alone, please?
So anyway, he said not to worry. I said, I'm so sorry. He said not to worry. I've heard that word. Said it many times. So I said, so what do we do now? He called in the surgeon who had done his bypass surgery 2 years ago. They called in an infectious disease doctor, Dr. Maldonado, who is absolutely beyond fabulous. Of course, Dr. Farmer was in on it. They called in, I can't even remember now, there was another specialist of some kind of pulmonologist, not a pulmonologist, but anyway, it was somebody. And this was on the edge of the coronavirus getting started. It was in the very beginning. So Dr. Maldonado is an infectious disease doctor. He was fixing to get so busy he wouldn't even know his name. But for then, he would come in that room and he would spend time with Rolland and he would talk to him and explain things to him. Now, this is how God has been in all of this situation. I don't know about the doctors that y'all know about or have come in contact with, but these doctors are all experts in their fields, and they came together They conferenced together. They were not arrogant in their knowledge. They were not trying to one person get their way over the other. And I have a niece, my sister Debbie, who belongs to David, the original brother-in-law. Her oldest daughter is the COO at the hospital where we were. And they're all consulting with Sarah because they know Sarah. He belongs to Sarah. And she said, I know, she came and visited us, and she said, I know that it's going to cost this hospital money to send him somewhere else. But I need to send him to Birmingham. And the doctors all agreed. Because of the type of care, it's called tertiary care, and it's a higher level of care that East Alabama was not equipped to handle. And they knew that's what he was going to need. Well, they kept telling me how serious it was. And in my head, I heard those words, but I didn't. He's been through 5 bypasses. What the heck? And I told him the morning of surgery, I said, we got one more Catalina trip in us. He said, yep, we do. So anyway, they made the decision to send him to Birmingham. That was on Tuesday. Wednesday night he went to Birmingham. The very next morning, before I didn't go with him, he went by ambulance. I came home so that I could pack for us. I was going to be staying with a niece who lives in the area. And so Debbie and David rode with me. We took 2 cars. They rode with me to get me to UAB because I didn't know how to get there. It's a huge complex of a hospital system, the best in the state, and I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to find his room. I knew his room number and that's all, but David had gone ahead. He had found out where we were supposed to be. He had found out where we needed to park. He had found out everything, so it was a breeze getting in there. But it was like from the parking deck to where he was, it's probably a half a mile worth of hallway. It was a long, you get your steps in that place. But anyway, so we no sooner got there than they came and got him and took him for another TEE. But even before that, before I could get there about 11 o'clock that morning, they set up, all of these people that knew Sarah. Sarah used to be at one of the hospitals in Birmingham before she got transferred down here a couple of years ago. And she had recruited, when she was at the other hospital, recruited all of these people. Surgeons, PAs, cardiologists, this whole team of people. They knew Sarah. And Sarah had put the word out, my uncle's coming, you take care of him. And before I got there, Rolland said it was a steady parade of people coming in, opening the door. Are you Sarah's uncle? Hey, I'm so-and-so, we're gonna be taking care of you. Hey, so it was, and I got to meet several of them and they were just fabulous. But the doctor, and Sarah says to this day that she had no input into his getting assigned to her, but God sent us a rock star cardiovascular surgeon by the name of Kyle Udaly. So pray for Dr. Udaly in your prayers, because he's like he's probably his mid-30s. Absolutely, ladies, the most gorgeous man you've ever laid your eyes on.
You got pictures?
Oh,
Except
no,
for
I
one.
didn't. And I'm sorry I didn't. But I mean, he looks like a surfer boy, but very calm, very laid back, very confident in his abilities. And, but he's not arrogant, just a quiet confidence. That day, he said, I'm gonna check for myself to make sure what's going on. He did another TEE as well as a catheterization because he wanted to check the status of the bypasses that had been done 2 years ago. Another God thing, they were all intact. All the bypasses were still good. And he said, and another good thing is the heart muscle is strong. It has not been affected. So that's in our favor. So they began then, that was on Thursday, they began then to pump him with antibiotics. He said it is as bad as they told you it was. And so we're looking at a minimum of 2, possibly 3 valve replacements. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know how that looks. I don't know how. So they began to pump him full of antibiotics, schedule surgery for Tuesday. So on Monday, I asked Dr. Daly, I said, will we see you before surgery? He said, oh yeah, I'll be in your room at some point.
I'm passing him around right now.
There we go.
We're passing him around.
Dr. Daly.
Oh, okay.
We gotta see this gorgeous person.
He is pretty good.
So I told him in ICU one day, I said, Dr. Daly, you're just a hottie. And he said, shh, don't say that. Please don't say that. Anyway,
Wanna see.
He's still in my heart.
no, I don't know. Is he? I don't know. See, I never talked to him about family. I didn't.
He's got kids.
But when Sarah was at the other hospital in Birmingham, she recruited him from Columbia University Hospital in New York.
Wanna see?
So
She's trying to manage this.
Rolland hoping she never sees him again. I
Oh,
think.
no, unless he can do whatever he wants.
So the day of surgery, he came to the room. And I asked him then, I said, Dr. Daly, do you mind if we pray with you? And he said, absolutely. He said, please do. And he knew, he's apparently a praying man, because he knew, he was standing right here next to me. He took my hand, he took Rolland's hand, and the 3 of us made a circle, and we prayed. And I prayed for his ability, I prayed for his strength, I prayed for calmness over him. And it's not like that was his first, he had another procedure, I don't know what it was, a surgery of some kind before he ever got to Rolland. He didn't start on him till 12:30 that day. And 8 hours later, he came out just looking like, not him, he looked like. But he, Dr. Udata just calmly walked out of the surgical area, and he was just his regular calm self. He said he did good, and I think we had a success. But and so then, he was in ICU for 6 days, and I won't go into the details but he had a couple of episodes in ICU of complete confusion. Couldn't understand how a calendar worked, couldn't understand when I was trying to tell him what time it was, what that meant. And I thought, I don't know how to teach time. And and he was hollering at me, tell me what time it is. I finally told him another way of saying it, and he said, well, that's all I wanted to know is what time it is. And, anyway, so on Sunday evening, late, they came because he was going to be on IV antibiotics for 6 weeks. They came in and put in a PICC line. And I had to leave his room while they did that. It has to be a sterile environment. Yeah. So I was standing outside talking to the nurse that was assigned to him, and I was telling her about these episodes, and she said, I'm not sure I knew about that. I'm not sure that I think I need to go tell the nurse practitioner who's on duty about that. She did, and before the evening was over, they had done another CAT scan and found that he had an aneurysm. Some of the what they could surmise that some of the vegetation had broken loose and gone to his brain and was bleeding. And so they began to treat that. And it was Friday, from Tuesday of one week to Friday of the next week, before we were able to leave the hospital and go immediately. I drove him immediately to the rehab hospital, where he spent a couple of weeks or so. I don't remember now how long it was. He came home on March the 24th, but when he got home, our first day home, he went in and sat on the toilet. He said, I gotta go TT, and I said, okay. So he couldn't stand to to do it, so he sat down, and then he couldn't get up. And I tried, and I couldn't get him up. And so we had not even met our next door neighbors. It's a younger couple. He works for the county district attorney's office. She's an attorney in Montgomery. We had not met them, but they had come over, she had come over and left a little basket of muffins and gave us her phone number and his phone number. So I called Kevin and I said, at this point, it was in the middle of everything, and I had, the last 6 days he was in the hospital, I could not go see him. They would not let me.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So Kevin was working from home, and I said, Kevin, are you at home? And he said, yes. I said, I'm your next door neighbor. I know we've never met, but I need help getting Rolland off the toilet. They knew. So, you know, the first time they meet, he's got his drawers down right his ankles, you know, but I mean,
And there another neighbor?
there.
Yeah, the little
I
one.
got plans today.
And we had to call him because a couple of times he trying to get out of the bed. He would put his feet on the floor and his legs would give away and he would just slide to the floor. This happened 2 or 3 times. And one morning I couldn't get him up. And so we had to call Kevin again, call our back door neighbor back here that is in his men's Emmaus group.
Took 2 of them to get him off the floor.
Yes, 2 grown men to get him off the floor. But I'm saying all that to say, about 3 weeks ago, we went to our dermatologist. Annual checkup, just the 2 of them. You know, we go together and we go in the room together, we get examined together. And I was telling Dr. Nash about what he had just been through, and he said, so they repaired the valves, right? And I said, oh no, they replaced the valves. And he looked at Rolland and he said, man, you should be dead.
Good bedside manner.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that was not a nice thing to say. So a week or so later, I'm at Sarah's house. She's giving a baby shower for her sister, who's pregnant. And I was talking to Sarah. Sarah knows all these doctors. You know, she has to know all the doctors that are in the area. So I was telling her that story. I was standing there with my daughter-in-law and with Sarah, and I said, this is what Dr. Nash said. Can you believe he said that? And she looked at me just as a matter of fact, just as serious as she could be, and she said, he's right. And that's when it became real to me how close it was. It is a miracle he survives the surgery. It is a miracle that he came back. For y'all who don't know my background, I am number 4 for him. He is number 4 for me. But never until he came along, since I left my daddy's house in 1969, has there been a spiritual head of the house for me. I've had to learn how to let him do that. I've had to learn how to be a submissive wife. I don't do very well sometimes. My former husband, who passed away, said, you're the most independent woman I've ever met, but you have to be when there's nobody there doing it for you. For those of you that have the spiritual head of the household, it is a blessed thing. But when he got home, he said, honey, I don't have anything. He was completely depleted. He had nothing emotionally, he had nothing physically, but what scared me the most is he said, I don't have anything spiritually. And praise God, he's come back from that. He's even taught the men's Bible study on Wednesday night one time since then. He did it by Zoom, but he did it. And that's fabulous. I don't care. He's coming back. He's still just a knucklehead, but he's my knucklehead. So I will covet your continued prayers for your brother, for your friend.
Ex-husband?
I uncle, whatever he is to you, I would covet your continued prayers for him. For whatever reason, God is not through with him. Because by all rights, he should not be here, and we should not be doing this. So, I wanted you to know what a miracle it is that today is, that we are all here, and that we're able to celebrate together. I know you all love him, and I want you to know that I've done the best I could to take care of him. And he was, like I said, on antibiotics for sick. He didn't come off antibiotics till the middle of April, so I was giving him IV stuff every day for 6 weeks. But anyway, he's, like I said, I just want you to know, for one thing, how blessed we are that I had family. And he will tell you right now that it's the Smalley family that saved his life. Although none of them were actual hands-on treatment, but it was guiding, and going before. It's that, if you've never heard of it, it's a big Emmaus thing. It's called prevenient grace, that grace that goes before and protects us even when we don't even know it. But, and that I am firmly convinced that God has a plan for his life, and he's not through with him yet. So, I wanted to share all that with y'all, and I wanted you to know how much I love you all, how much I'm so grateful that you're here, and as well as Rolland. And I'm sorry if I make you mad. Did anything I say that makes you mad?
You're It was. It's a joke.
It's a joke. Denise, I'm just delighted that you're here,
Thank you.
and I mean that. I truly mean that.
Well, God left us him and took mine. My husband in January.
I'm so sorry.
I guess he wasn't finished with you yet.
No.
You two Henri.
Well, that's true
I tell
too.
you what, they took that a lot away, but I'm getting it back.
Yeah.
I told the ladies in the car this morning that he came out of surgery crying, you know, and he cried and he cried. It was just days that he would just cry all day. But he's backed off from that now. There's not a whole lot that sets him off now, but
People say to me, "Oh,
he's
you
a
going
big
to
old
see your
teddy bear."
ex-husband?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm so far ex, it don't matter."
We can't remember nothing.
So that's all I got. I think the ladies have lunch ready or getting it ready, so, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing. Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I wanna also
Thank you,
just
Sharon.
say thank you to Sharon and to Rolland for putting this whole thing together and for opening up your house and for getting our family together like this. This is amazing and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Amen.
We will continue to pray for each one of you as you travel back home, cause ain't none of you going any short distance, so. That's all I got. Just wanted to,
Thank you.
wanted y'all to know, so that you could be fully aware of what he's been through and what a miracle it is that he's here. So, anyways.
Yes.
It's a miracle you remembered all the terms. Oh my goodness, so many tests and terms and.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Stop.
All right, let's eat some lunch.